just a few words who pay more, who receive less, all 27 states before I think Croatia joined in. And for instance, this is a contribution where we can see who is net contributor, who pays more to European Union than receive back. As you can imagine, mainly the big countries. If we cut at the 50, it means UK, Sweden, Netherlands, Italy, Germany, France, slightly Finland, Denmark. The rest are far more, they receive far more than they give in the common funds. For instance, if we put the finger on Greece, certainly is net recipient country, receiving far more than invest in European Union. Many other countries, Croatia as well. Coming back to the story, what would happen with Europe in the coming years? I mean, certainly we can have a lot of predictions. What are the alternatives? Whether some countries would follow the way of UK, and finally, what would be the way of the UK Brexit? At the moment, we are still focused on the Article 49. Article 49 is for candidate countries coming in. Very next one, number 50, defines the exit. It means that at the moment, the British government didn't initiate and practically starts with the day one of the process of the real divorce. It means I think that we will face a lot of negotiations in coming years. As I shown you on the case of Greenland, they needed 2 years to negotiate the exit. Despite that practically fishery was mainly maybe the only issue they discussed with. It means it would last far longer than people believe. This is at least my prediction. But on the other hand, I think for Europe it's crucial to develop as best as possible relations with the rest of the countries. As you know, through the European neighborhood policy, indeed, many things are really moving forward for all those countries in Northern Africa and the Middle East, in the area of the former Soviet Union bloc. And I think this is the way to show importance of EU enlargement as the mechanism that extends the area of peace, stability and prosperity in the wider area. For Southeast Europe, there is a long list of the things they should do. Frankly speaking, I think there is no any better instrument to encourage, to drive stabilization process or to make reforms than the European Union perspective. Still. And not just the political power behind, but perfectly developed instruments to assist, to facilitate reforms in the candidate countries. There are a list of things that every single candidate country should do. Croatia did the same, all other countries did the same. It means that certainly the rule of law is crucial in the country as a criterion for membership. The same with the justice system and the judicial reform. A very particular case for the countries of the former Yugoslavia is related with cooperation with the crime tribunal. It's not passed, it's still something that should be done. And finally, corruption is an organized crime. We all know that not a single country could challenge organized crime. The only way is to cooperate and work together. And all other things, with the refugee return, this is certainly not thinking about the actual wave of Syrian people. But refugees, it's unfortunately still left from the troubles of 25 years ago in the region of the former Yugoslavia. There are a set of formal criteria defined by the European Council. First is related with economic benchmarks, either inflation, budget deficit, public debt, defined by Maastricht criteria in the treaty in 1992. Then they moved in 1993 to issues related with democracy, rule of law, with the title Copenhagen criteria. Finally, administrative capacity, particularly for small countries. It's not very easy to practically adjust your legal system to acquis communautaire. It's more than hundreds and hundreds of pieces of legislation that you have to pass through your national parliament. And you need the people, really, simple human resources, knowledgeable, to pass that process. Plus political consensus in the country. And stabilization association process criteria are certainly not for Turkey or Iceland if they reactivate their application, but for the countries of the former Yugoslavia. They are related with the unfortunately sad consequences emerged after the troubles that we had 25 years ago. the dynamics, it's certainly defined by the number of criteria, but just to put the fingers on a couple of them, fulfillment of all criteria and conditions is number one. I mean, if any candidate country is thinking that they can somehow navigate or overjump any of those conditions or criteria, this is the wrong premises. I mean, it's really something that should be done for the sake of the country, not to pass the exam somewhere just to have a mark. But it's the process of accession itself is crucial one. Finally, compliance with the EU law, it's as I said, extremely complicated story. It means that you have to have a perfectly functioning parliament in the candidate country. Because the parliament, throughout the EU accession process, is kind of the law-making machinery with the speed to bring hundreds of pieces of legislation in the matter of few years. Far more than any other parliament anywhere in the world. And it needs knowledge, capacity, and political consensus. The same is with political will, and finally, political will between the EU member states. And now we come to the enlargement fatigue, and come to somehow the lack of trust in the European Union. I think this is, by all means, PR issue, how really to bring back the good light shining on the European Union as a project. We need the support of each EU member state. Procedure itself is so complicated. It means that if you have 100 of benchmarks to open or close particular chapter, that practically you have to cross part by part in all those accession criteria. In practice, it means that all 27, now 28, maybe tomorrow 27 again, countries and governments should say yes, formal yes, at the governmental session. In the case, for instance, of Croatia, we had maybe 150 times that 27 governments at their sessions should have this particular topic on agenda, and they used to say yes, okay. Then we can move further to open or close particular chapter. You can imagine in 28 countries, in some countries you have parliamentary elections, there's no government for months, mainly technical government, not capable and not eligible to do such a thing. I mean, the process itself is far more complicated and lasts longer than usually we think. Even for the countries that meet criteria out of the blue. And finally, we have something that might be called WWS model for EU enlargement. On one hand, we need a big yes by European institutions, by Council, by Commission, by European Parliament. At the end of the story, European Parliament has to ratify the final agreement of accession for every single state. But also, we need the final yes by all EU member states, by all governments, parliaments, and people. In some countries, they would have referendum for next coming candidate countries joining European Union, with a kind of lack of trust in public opinion around Europe. I mean, it's a really serious issue. This is the reason why I permanently push the PR story as something that I think is crucial, to educate, to inform, to brief the public in all EU member states and all candidate countries about the benefits of European Union. But finally, the same story is valid for candidate countries. The government should be very functional, efficient, to go through the whole process. The parliament requests consensus for next step, and finally the public opinion in the country, that you can imagine if the public opinion is against, hardly politicians would play on another card. I mean, this is really something that should go in synergy and promote, if the candidate country really would like to join European Union, I think that it's crucial to make the synergy and all of them work together. Government and opposition, media, with pluses and minuses as a corrective mechanism, but still on that way. I mean, otherwise, we all believe that European Union is a kind of the good weather union, and where everything is fine, practically we all think this is marvelous, we have beautiful union. But occasionally, as we all know, the clouds are coming, and the clouds are troubles and problems that we're faced with. But I think that we should work on something that would be good and bad weather union. We can't pick up and say, no, we are perfectly happy with European Union, but only in the case of the sunshine. That's more or less what I tried to say in these few minutes, and I'm certainly welcome any questions or comments or your views. Thank you.